The moment that we're currently confronting is a moment in which we're compelled to face the fragility of what we fought for and what we won. And I think we all have wondered, what would we do in moments in which the fundamental tenets of our democracy were being challenged? And that moment is now. If this is a moment where America is prepared to confront itself, it has to confront the reality of violent white extremists who are out and who are broken and who are marching in the streets. The president himself, beginning from his campaign, has set a context that has emboldened these groups.
Don't worry, we'll take our country back very soon.
Hail Trump! Hail our people! Hail victory!
I think it's fair to say we've never seen what we're seeing today.
It feels like everything that we have defined ourselves as is under threat in this moment.
We now have a new Department of Justice led by Attorney General Jeff Sessions. And we've known him for 20 years as a senator who has resisted almost every civil rights initiative that has been advanced in the United States Congress.
This administration has given voice to the darkest sides of this country with regard to racial justice. They've made it very clear that civil and human rights are something they're going to be attacking on a regular basis.
And so that has compelled LDF to step up. We have had to do the work that they will not do. We have had to stand in the gap.
What happened last November did change the game, but not so much that what we work for and what we care about should be derailed.
LDF is built for moments like this. We came into being to challenge the intractable, to dream the unimaginable. We've never had an easy road. We've always faced challenges. We've always been the David in the Goliath story.
Voting rights is derivative of all other rights, opens up the door to citizenship to Black Americans.
In the past decade, there have been more than 30 states that have enacted restrictive voting laws.
Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Texas. It's happening in Wisconsin. It's happening in Ohio. It's happening in Kansas, requiring strict forms of photo ID that millions of Americans don't have. Cutting back on the amount of time that people have to vote, closing polling places, purging the voting rolls, disenfranchising ex-offenders.
Today's primary election is the first time Alabamians have been required to show a photo ID to cast a ballot.
Well, in Alabama, millions of people have voted over the last 15 years, and there's only been one documented instance of voter impersonation fraud. I met a couple of people today who either they themselves or family members did not come to the polls today because their ID was expired or was not acceptable for voting.
Which brings us to today, to the closing of 31 DMV locations. Every single county in which blacks make up more than 75% of registered voters will see their driver's license office closed. Every one.
All of those tactics are justified by this myth that people are showing up to the polls and they aren't who they say they are.
We like to say it's more likely that you will be struck by lightning than someone will commit voter impersonation fraud. On the other hand, voter suppression is part of our country's history and continues to be part of our country's present reality.
If you wanted to assemble an injustice league of voter suppression, you couldn't do much better than Donald Trump's so-called Election Integrity Commission.
We call it Voter Suppression Commission.
What do you think they want to do with that master list and all of that data on every voter in the country?
They want to be able to use this data to be able to intimidate people on Election Day.
So we at the Legal Defense Fund are fighting back. We have sued the Election Integrity Commission.
It was designed to target Black and Latinos and to suggest that Black people and Latino people, recent immigrants generally, don't fully belong in this country.
LDF has a decades-long history working on desegregation cases, and we continue to have a docket of cases in the South. And now the scheme is seceding from the school district itself and creating your own segregated school district.
This is a big day for people in Gardendale, where voters approved a tax increase to move the city closer toward its own school system.
It would be a school district that would have half the percentage of Black students than the county would have. So essentially, we were able to go to a federal court.
And in that discovery, the racial motivations of the white people in that community became very clear.
The judge found there was intent to discriminate. This decision was tainted with racial discrimination. Nevertheless, she said that we're going to allow this split to occur.
And we're seeing this secession happen all over the country.
Communities want to take public tax dollars to exclude African Americans from better resource schools, from schools with greater technology. We stand and fight against that. Criminal justice reform has been at the heart of LDF's legal practice since its beginning.
Buck versus Davis. In a death penalty case, at our client's capital sentencing trial, a psychologist testified, literally, that our client was more likely to commit future acts of violence because he is Black.
Chief Justice Roberts noted this is a very unique case about the Constitution and about your right to be sentenced regardless of your race.
And we won. He said our justice system punishes people for what they've done, not for who they are. And he acknowledged that there is a long-standing stereotype about the dangerousness of Black men. One of the tenets of our work is that everyone deserves a second chance, especially those who committed crimes or participated in crimes when they were children. And we want to find a way to keep the criminal justice system away from touching young people for the mistakes that they make.
White children can make mistakes and it be seen as a mistake. Black children can make mistakes and are criminalized for it. And we recognize that that is the essence of the juvenile life without parole system.
The United States is the only country in the entire world that sentences children to life without parole. And when you look at the statistics where Black children are sentenced to life without parole at a rate that's 10 times higher than white children, what we're saying as society is that Black children don't matter. The Supreme Court ruled that it was unconstitutional to impose a mandatory life without parole sentence on children.
The reason it's important for LDF to be involved in police reform because we don't get to be a fully realized democracy when law enforcement's job is to protect one group of citizens against another.
This country for the last 3 years has been roiled by the issue of the killing of unarmed African American men.
You will never hear anybody at LDF say anything about being anti-police. What you will hear is that people don't want to be over-policed, that people don't want to be stopped unnecessarily without probable cause. People don't want to see their sisters, brothers, sons, daughters, fathers, mothers killed at the hands of police.
We are seeking policing reform to improve that relationship. That often happens through consent decrees, where communities and law enforcement come together and try to propose solutions.
We were able to make some progress. Now, this administration has made it crystal clear that it is not interested in doing any type of systemic reform.
And when you see these thugs being thrown into the back of a paddy wagon, you just see them thrown in, rough. I said, please don't be too nice.
I have had one meeting and one meeting only with Attorney General Sessions. And I said to him, Attorney General Sessions, I'm not sure who you're talking to, because I actually talked to the police. The police commissioner of Baltimore said, I want this consent decree.
I'm disappointed that the Department of Justice thought it was necessary to seek a 90-day extension. I don't think it's necessary. We're ready to go with the consent decree.
We're also staying focused on the things that African American families and communities need to be able to create opportunity for themselves. And so we continue to work on issues like housing discrimination and transportation access and access to water. This moment is comprised of two things. First, we have to resist the urge to take us back. Simultaneously, we should still be working on pushing forward. We should still be working precisely in this moment on expanding the reach of equality.
Taking that on requires new thinking. That's precisely why we have the Thurgood Marshall Institute. Our mandate is to be innovative. Our mandate is to think about renewing the narrative of racial justice in the 21st century. Our mandate is to do the cutting-edge research that will allow us to support all of our arguments and all of our civil rights advocacy with empirical data.
Fight against the effort to push us back, but still imagine and still work towards a vision that opens up and broadens equality, that opens up and broadens access, that opens up and broadens opportunity. We've got to be doing those two things at the same time. This is no time to rest on our laurels. This is no time to hold the line. That's not something I'm interested in. I'm only interested in moving forward.
NAACP Legal Defense Fund is a national treasure, obviously. So are you.
Thank you
Thank you
so
for
much,
being here.
Rachel.
Thank you.